Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very powerful show coming right up, and our special guest today is Jalaja Bonheim, and she's here to talk to us about her new book, The Magic of Circlework. Jalaja is an internationally acclaimed speaker, an award-winning author, and one of the world's foremost experts in the use of circle gatherings as a tool for healing and empowering women. She is the founder of the Institute for Circlework and has trained hundreds of circlework leaders from around the world, including the Middle East, where her circles unite Jewish and Palestinian women. So let's welcome to the show, Jalaja.
Thank you, Marianne. Happy to be here. Oh, what a joy it is to have you here, and I'm so intrigued by your new book, The Magic of Circlework. Yes, Circlework is really my passion. I've been doing it for over 30 years now, and it has transformed my life and the life of so many other women. So I just love it so much. So for those of us that are new to Circlework, what does that mean? Well, there are many ways of working with circle gatherings, and Circlework is a specific method that I have developed over the years, and our intention in this practice is always to create a space that feels incredibly safe, but also sacred. And so I've developed many tools, and some of them involve talking, but we also work with movement, we work with emotion and nature, so we work with touch. There's so many tools that are all designed to help people really come into their hearts and souls, connect very deeply to themselves, and then from that place also connect to each other in ways that are really authentic and really intimate.
Well, and it sounds like it's just such a divine place to be in, because I know you mostly work with women in doing this.
Yeah, I mostly work with women, although now and then I work with men, and I do have many students who also work with men. So I really do see Circlework as a practice for everyone, even though my personal passion does have to do with empowering women.
Moving forward. And just so that people are clear, now Circlework is not a religion at all.
No, absolutely not. In fact, one of the intentions that we have is to create a space where people of all faiths or no faith at all can come together and share sacred space. And so for that to happen, it's absolutely crucial that we are not working with any kind of religious practice, or there is no ideology, no belief system. Everyone comes with their own truth, their own path, but together we create this space where there is really an extraordinary sense of sacred presence.
That sounds so beautiful, and it kind of leads me to just kind of think, gosh, what started you on this path of developing Circlework? How did you even get started with that?
Well, I had come from India, and I had been studying Indian temple dance, actually, in India. I am from Germany, and from there I went to India, and I really fell in love with this very ancient form of dancing. And Indian temple dance is very complex, so it's not something you can learn or teach overnight. But when I came to the United States, I thought, I want to create a space where people can experience that dimension of sacredness that is embodied, that is experienced not just through the mind but through the body. And so the very first circles I led were actually movement circles. And for years I led a group. This was in the San Francisco Bay Area where I lived at the time, and it's called the Movement Medicine Circle. But right from the start, all the elements that are in my circles today were there. There was very deep, authentic sharing, there was storytelling, there was emotional processing. And movement is still something I love a lot and that I include in all my circles, but the focus is no longer on movement per se. But from the start, I loved the circle. I just intuitively knew that I wanted us to work in circles. And then over the years, the more I learned about the power of circle gatherings, the more I fell in love with them.
Well, and it seems like it's the perfect fit for you because just from an energetic level and hearing you talk about Circlework, you could see the passion that you bring to it.
Yes, I think the circle, on the one hand, it's a very ancient form. When you look back, you see that in every culture around the world, people gathered in circles. So regardless of where you come from, your ancestors gathered in circles. It is really the most ancient way of coming together in community, but also coming together with a spiritual intention. And then on the other hand, I see it as a tool that is so perfectly suited for the needs of our times now in the 21st century. Because we're living in a time where a lot of the old forms of community have disintegrated. A lot of people don't have the kind of extended families that people used to have. And loneliness, Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, has been coming out and saying loneliness is the greatest health epidemic that we are facing today. And it is causing more damage to us than even obesity or smoking. So he says 40% of Americans say that they are lonely. Now, that's a huge number. And it doesn't have to be that way. So many of the women that I work with say that their circle has become both their spiritual home, but also part of their family. They can't imagine not having the kind of support and community that they get through their circles. So I think that circles are really a tool we need today. And we're seeing how women everywhere are standing up and wanting to have a voice and wanting to be empowered. But we can't do this in isolation. We need to support each other. And that is why I work with women from all around the world. I go regularly to the Middle East, and I've trained women from India, Afghanistan, Kenya, Norway, all around the world. The women are coming together and realizing that they do have the power to change not only their own lives, but also the world.
Well, in your book, you do talk about how the circle is the foundation of human community, and you can see that because it gives the opportunity for people to come together from different cultures and not have it be a religious thing.
Right. And also, I think it's an essentially democratic form, because when you're sitting in the circle, there is no one who is in an elevated position. So the form itself gives you the message that we are equal. And then the structure of the process ensures that each person has a voice. And many women that I've worked with have come to the circle feeling that, well, I don't really have a voice, or nobody really wants to hear what I have to say. And in the process, they discover that I do have a voice, and people do want to hear what I have to say. So they take that sense of confidence and empowerment, and they bring it back into their daily life. And in many cases, their life completely transforms as a result.
And it's just so empowering, and it's so nice to hear that women that feel that they don't have a voice can start getting used to expressing it in circle.
Yes, and I personally think that women need the empowerment of other women. I think that it's very important that women don't go out into the world trying to imitate men's form of power, but that they come together to support each other and to discover what is my authentic way of giving my gifts to the world, which is not going to look like anyone else's way, and it is certainly not going to look like a man's way. So I think it is very, very important. And people sometimes say, well, why are you doing just women's circles? Aren't you, do you reject men? Absolutely not. I believe that men also lead circles. But I think that in a women's circle, we discover in a new way what it means to be a woman. I often describe the circle as an energetic amplifier, which means that when you have that intense vortex of feminine energy, women get to experience in a whole new way what the feminine is. Not in a theoretical, abstract way, but a really embodied way. Oh, this is what it feels like to be in a women's circle. And I think that both men and women need that.
To have those separate circles. And, I'm so glad that you brought up the feminine aspect. Because a lot of times I know when I've been in different groups where it's men and women, a lot of times women don't feel like they can be as open as they would like to be. And whether or not they don't really feel like the men can understand the issues and problems that surround them.
Yes, and I suspect the same is true though for men, that men also need circles where they can be with men. And they can really look at what does it mean? What is the masculine? Because our culture gives us so many distorted messages about that. And in some ways, I would say that the messages that men get are even more distorted than the messages that women get. And a lot of New Age literature, I think, doesn't help either because it identifies the feminine in terms of character traits like being nurturing or gentle or compassionate. Well, those are all traits that men have too. And so I always say that the feminine is actually something that has to be experienced through the body because it is really an energetic frequency. It's not something that our mind can grasp. It's something very real, but you need to experience it directly. And once you do, it is so clear, yes, that is real, that is the feminine, that is who I am. And then a woman can be, then a woman can be strong and assertive and all these attributes that are often attributed to men, which again, they are really universal.
Well, what I love about that is, they can define for themselves what it means to be feminine. And so, like how you're saying, like sometimes it could be strong or sometimes it could be more nurturing. It depends on where they're at.
Yes, exactly. And so the process that we use in Circlework is really designed to help each woman come home to herself and to realize in a very personal way, who am I, what is true for me? And out of that, to have the support to really explore what is the direction I want? What are the goals that I want to set as opposed to the goals that society has set for me? So there is a great emphasis on finding the center within ourselves and really connecting with that. And I find that a lot of times the women who come are so busy in their daily lives that they really need a place where they can slow down and where they have that support in sort of dropping out of the busyness of the mind into a more soulful place, a place of connection with their heart, with their own truth. when I started working, I thought, oh, that's our problem in the West. We're all too busy. But then I started working with Palestinian women in the West Bank and with women from around the world, and I realized that it has much more to do with industrialization, and that all over the world I hear the same lament: we're too busy. We don't have time to attend to our own hearts and souls. So the circle is really a place where we can do that, where we can stop, slow down, and really come home to ourselves.
You must have a lot of women that attend these that have such aha moments when they're in the circle.
Oh, yes. The circle is, I call the book The Magic of Circlework because it really is a very, very magical process. It's completely unpredictable. You never know what's going to come up, what's going to happen, because I'm not coming in there with a set agenda or a program. My job as the facilitator is to create a space where each woman can find herself, and you never know what that's going to look like. So it's a wonderful and very exciting process for facilitators as well as for participants.
So what are some of the things that participants can expect when they attend their first, circle work?
Well, the first thing that many people comment on is a tremendous sense of safety. That this is a place where each woman knows that she is going to be honored and respected, and she's really there for her own nourishment. So I always say to women, don't do anything if it doesn't feel right to you. Really listen to yourself. So that sense of safety is absolutely crucial. It's also a place of deep listening, where a lot of times we, in daily life, when we're talking to other people, we jump in, we interrupt. There's a lot of headiness in the process. Whereas in the circle, we're really slowing down. Each woman has time to speak as much as she needs, and she really gets the sense that everyone is completely present and really listening to her. And the other thing is that, to me, it's very important that there's a sense of pleasure and sacred play. So sometimes in our lives we can get way too serious. And so this process there's a lot of dancing, storytelling, there's a lot of pleasure and play in the process, which to my mind is very, very important. Play isn't just some kind of luxury. I really think that play is one of the ways in which we rediscover who we really are. And the other thing is that sense of sisterhood, because a lot of women come with wounds inflicted by the sense that women are rivals or competitors. A lot of women say, in my experience, I couldn't really trust women. So for many, the circle is the first place where they really experience what sisterhood feels like. What it feels like to feel unconditionally accepted and supported for who we are.
And really trust the people that they're in that sisterhood with, because you're so right. Often when women look at where they've had some of their wounds, it could be from like women at work or women in social groups or what have you.
Absolutely, yes. It's sadly, it's very true. And, as I said before, I think we need to empower each other. And that means we need to learn to trust each other. Now, I also describe circle work as what I call a form of relational education. I find it extraordinary that kids in school, they learn geography and math and all these subjects, but they don't learn how to relate skillfully. They don't learn how to resolve their conflicts. And so one of the big issues that comes up in many women's circles is the issue of judgment. What do we do when someone starts judging us or when our own judgments come up? And judgment is the thing that most often undermines our relationships. So in Circlework, we learn new ways of working and transforming with our judgments. We take responsibility. When we're judging, we don't say that person has a problem. We say, I have a problem. I'm caught up in judgment. And how can I work with that to transform it? So we learn ways of expressing our needs, but doing so in a way that does not blame the other person.
I do love that. I think that is so fabulous because it's so easy to get into judgment. Very well people can come by and start, well, did you know this about so-and-so? Or, did you hear? And it's, nice to be able to get to this place where it's like, just to remain outside of all of that.
Yeah, and sometimes women say, oh, the circle is such a non-judgmental place. And I always say to them, no, that's not really true. We can't help that we judge. We're all raised to judge. It's just our conditioning. So the judgment will come up. The question is, when I notice my judgment coming up, how do I respond? And in the circle, many times women say, in the beginning, I had this knee-jerk judgment of certain women. And over the course of the circle, those judgments completely dissolved. Because judgment is always a sign that you really aren't seeing a person fully. And once you get to see who that person really is and where their behavior comes from, the judgments start to transform. And they're replaced by compassion. And of course that's very important in the circles I lead in the Middle East, where I'm working with Jewish and Palestinian women, where of course the judgments are huge and very powerful.
Yeah. I've always thought that when we have judgment, it just shows our limitations as opposed to the other person's. It's always something we've got to look back and look in ourselves.
That's so true. Yeah.
Totally. What a powerful thing, because all these things are issues that women, men always deal with on a daily basis, and to be able to pick through these and go, try to look for the truth in them and release the ones that don't work for us anymore. I love that.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see how the ripples flow out and how women go home and their marriages and their families start to transform, or their behavior at work starts to transform. Often little things. There's a story I love so much in the Magic of Circlework about a woman who was a lawyer, and she comes to the circle and she realizes she's wearing all these sort of very conservative Midwestern clothes, and she's observing these women in the circle wearing these very feminine, flamboyant clothes. And this is an ongoing circle. And very slowly she starts to transform her clothing, and a very important aspect of it is she's a fat woman, she's a big woman, so she's grown up with these messages, well, if you're fat, you're not supposed to wear bright colors, and then she starts thinking, if I'm fat, I might as well be fat in red rather than fat in blue. And she starts, and she describes how the women are so loving to her, and there's no judgment, there's just support to be who you are. And you begin to see how this process of her clothing transforming runs parallel to the process of her discovering her voice And today, she's this woman who's very outspoken. She's a leader in her own community. She herself has learned to lead circles. So you see how through this process, a woman begins to find her true power and her own voice. It's just a beautiful thing to witness happening.
It is a beautiful thing. And so it brings me to my next question, because I'd love for you to share with us how circle work and healing are intertwined, because it seems like it's within just the fabric of circle work.
Oh yes, it is very much a healing practice. When I speak of healing, my starting point is the belief that our own organism, our own being wants to heal. So the healing comes from within. There's something in us that wants to be whole. And so in the circle, a circle universally is seen as a symbol of wholeness. All around the world, the circle is revered as a symbol of divinity, but also a symbol of unity, of healing, of wholeness. And so we are creating a space where that intrinsic wholeness that lies within us can emerge. And that is why I think it's so important that nobody is telling us what to do or where to go, but rather that we are given a space where our own needs can emerge and we can acknowledge from within what it is that we need. And so the healing that happens is tremendous. One aspect for women, right now this Me Too movement is so prominent and powerful. And I think it's very, very important that women are beginning to come out and speak about their abuse and about the different things they've experienced. But I also feel that not enough attention is given to the question of, okay, so I'm acknowledging these things happen to me. Now, how do I heal them? And what happens in the circle, specifically around the healing of sexual wounds, sexual abuse, is that we hold it as a collective wound. So I might have had this personal experience, but I can be sure that there are other women in the circle who have had a similar experience. And that in itself cuts through a lot of shame. A lot of women carry shame. This happened to me, and so somehow we feel it's my fault. And that just falls by the wayside as we begin to see that, no, these wounds are actually collective wounds that we are holding together. And so in that space, first of all, the wound, the vulnerability, has space to emerge and be acknowledged and be expressed. A lot of times we're also working with touch. Touch is a very potent healing tool and very underutilized in our culture because we have so many hang-ups and problems with touch. So in the circle, we're creating a space where touch feels very safe, and women are completely in control of whether and how they are touched. And so many women say, oh my God, the touch was the most healing aspect of it. I think, for example, of one woman who was in her 70s, and she said, my husband died 15 years ago, and I haven't been touched since then. And that's tragic. It doesn't have to be that way. Mm-hmm. So I think that creation of a space where healing can occur and it is safe, because healing is, I think, by nature a very vulnerable process. To heal a wound, you have to be in a space where it feels safe to reveal that wound. And many people don't have those kinds of spaces. So as they come into the circle and they experience a sense of safety, those wounds very naturally begin to rise up and ask to be acknowledged.
Well, and with mental illness? How can Circlework help them?
Yes, I mean, if someone wanted to come to one of my circles, let's say, who was schizophrenic or mentally ill, I would not allow it. I would say this person needs specialized help. That said, I have students who work specifically with the mentally ill. And one of the beautiful things about Circlework is it's very adaptable. So people can combine it. For example, yoga teachers could combine Circlework with yoga. This person was a chaplain who was working in a closed psychiatric unit of a hospital. And she was leading circle gatherings, I think 3 times a week. Some of these were for the adults and some of these were for the children. And so in that setting, she was having tremendous success with these circles. And, the other people who worked there were coming to her and saying, what are you doing there? They're coming out of it so peaceful and so calm. So certainly, I think Circlework can be used with the mentally ill. But at the same time, it's important to be very clear that Circlework is not psychotherapy. So we're not trying to work with severe mental illness in the circle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's so important to talk about what Circlework can do and things that probably need other assistance as well. So that there's some clarity in regards to what to expect when you come and you're doing Circlework and you're part of that community.
Yes, and since I train Circlework leaders, I always advise them, be very clear on what kind of people you want in your circles and give yourself permission to say no if someone comes who you feel it's not that they're a bad person or anything like that, but you are the guardian of the circle in a sense. So you want the people who are present in the circle to be the right kind of people, the people who are appropriate.
Well, and so I know with the Circlework you do, you also have retreats. Do those last like a week? What do those look like?
I love the retreats. The retreats last I have one coming up in June that starts on a Thursday evening and that would go till Sunday noon. Mm-hmm. But the trainings that I do are also retreats. They are week-long retreats. They are also intensive trainings, and they attract women from all around the world. And that's a beautiful aspect of it, too, that the women from the United States or Canada get to connect with these women who come from everywhere. And the bonds that get forged in those times are really lifelong bonds because we're meeting at such a deep, intimate level. You're not meeting at that social small talk level. You're going right to the heart of things. And so we are living together for a week, eating together, being in circle together, going on walks. It's a very inclusive, holistic process. And I really think that most of us need to step out of our daily lives to really make a shift. We're so caught up in our social media and all our daily stuff. So to really give ourselves permission to step back and enter a sacred space and immerse ourselves there so that the new that wants to emerge from our soul really has the opportunity to do so. It's so valuable.
Well, and I know you also talk about how women can find moments where they can take like their own personal retreat if they're unable to attend the Circlework retreats.
Yes. I really feel it's crucial that I speak a lot about what I call thought addiction. Because I think we are all addicted to thinking. And this is a society that constantly fuels that addiction. and it's instilled in us from a very young age. And so our mind has become a little tyrant. Our mind is supposed to serve us, but instead it's running the show, and we are the slaves. And so I think it's crucial that each one of us has moments. I take moments like that every day where I just stop. Where whatever I'm doing, we all have time to just spend a few breaths. That's all it takes sometimes is just a few seconds where we say, okay, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to be here. And to do that on a regular basis, I personally think that is crucial. Every woman should do that. Every man should do that. And they're starting to introduce it even into schools, and they're finding that if they have 5 minutes of silence at the beginning of a class, the children do so much better. So we all need that.
Without a doubt. And just having that time to, do your meditation and be mindful of our surroundings makes such a difference, especially with, the over-busy schedules we all have. And I love how you put that, because we are addicted to the overthought process.
Yeah. Really, our minds are just so voracious, and God forbid our minds should have nothing to do for a few seconds. It's really become a problem, and I really think it fuels a lot of the addictions that we see, whether it's the addiction to alcohol or drugs or shopping, or it's like we're in a society that encourages our mind to never stop. So we are, in a sense, going against the stream when we say, no, I'm going to step out for a moment. I'm just going to give myself permission to just be here and breathe. And, some people aren't comfortable with the idea of meditation, so I say don't even call it meditation. Just talk about listening. Take a moment to just listen. Listen to the sounds around you. Listen to your soul, listen to your heart. It could be very short, and it can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, such a huge impact. Well, and so we talked a little bit about this. We didn't really dive into it, but I'd love for you to just share your experience of what you've seen over the years. What are some of the ripples of change that you see for the women that attend your Circlework groups?
Well, it's very, very individual, because, for example, one woman might go home and say, wow, my marriage is really not working. I need to get a divorce. And another woman might go home and say, oh my God, I'm thinking of a particular woman who went home and said, I really haven't been expressing my appreciation to my husband and my children, and I'm going to start doing that. And her relationship improved so much. So the direction that each person takes is very, very personal and individual. But overall, I always say to women, our goal is to become what a circle is. When you think of what is a circle, it is whole, it is centered, it is balanced, it is sacred. So those are the qualities that we want to manifest in our lives. So for one person, it might mean giving up a job that doesn't work for them anymore, starting a new career. For another person, several women actually went home and started retreat centers. One woman, this was a Palestinian student of mine, she started the first women's center ever in the West Bank. There was no women's center, and she created this gorgeous women's center there where I have taught several times. And it's a stunning place. And it came directly out of, we brought her to the Circlework training, and in the Circlework training, she had this vision of this place. She wanted her sisters in Palestine to be able to experience this kind of sacred sanctuary. And so she created it. So, the ripples that go out aren't always dramatic. They might be very subtle. They might be just a gentler way of relating to ourselves, a way of taking better care of ourselves. I think of another woman who said, I no longer apologize for needing a lot of time to nourish myself. It's just what I need, and I have learned through Circlework that that's okay. And so I give that to myself now. I think for a lot of women also there's a new sense of community, that they see how important it is to have sisterhood, and that needs to be nourished, and that is something they don't want to neglect anymore. So they are willing to invest the time and the energy to nourish that sense of community with other women.
It's such an important thing, and I just love your book, The Magic of Circlework. What final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I really am holding a vision of a world where everyone who wants a circle can find a well-facilitated, beautiful, safe circle in their own community. Mm-hmm. So my passion really at this point is to empower other circle leaders so that they can take this work into their own communities, which is happening already, but I think we need a lot more of it. And I see that there are so many women out there who have the capacity to offer this kind of sanctuary space to others. And so if there is any woman who is listening to this and says, I would love to do that, I would really encourage her. We have scholarships. In 2001, I started the Institute for Circlework, which is a nonprofit organization that has provided scholarships for many, many women to come to the Circlework training. And you might just start a small circle with a few girlfriends. It doesn't have to be a big production. It could be 3 or 4 women gathering in a living room. And it can make such a difference in your life.
Sounds so beautiful. Where can people connect with you and learn more about your community and all of the great events that you have coming up?
Well, the easiest way is probably to go to magicofcirclework.com. And from there they can link to my website, they can link to the Institute for Circlework, and they can learn more about different events and the books and so on. So magicofcirclework.com.
And I know your book, The Magic of Circlework, is available at all major retailers and on Amazon. Jalaja, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. It's been a great pleasure.
Well, thank you, Jalaja. It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you. I learned a lot about Circlework. I'm sure everyone tuning in did as well. We are at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.